Hey guys, I know it's been a minute since I've posted this channel, but lately I've been very addicted to the Pokemon trading card game. As many of you might know, a brand new set may have came out with some beautiful evolution cards. Set's called Prismatic Evolutions or something like that. On Pokemon TCG Live, there's a brand new ladder, and I challenged myself to get to the highest rank on the ladder in as little time as possible. And I'm going to show you guys today the deck that I did to do that and a bunch of games that I played on my run to the Arceus rank. I did it in just under 3 days, which is really a lot of grinding. I don't recommend it. It's almost a little bit of a slog towards the end and can get quite frustrating, but if you are going to do it with a deck, I would highly recommend this one because it is a blast. Let's go ahead and get right into it. The first thing I did when I was looking for a deck to play was I went to limitless.com. I looked at the tournaments. I looked at what people were winning with, and I found one that I don't remember the user, but maybe I'll include it here on the screen somewhere. He was playing a future deck, and I love the future cards. They are some of my favorite cards in all of Pokemon right now. You can even see I've got the future deck box locked in from the Pokemon Center. It is a future Iron Leaves Crispin deck, and it is a blast to play. I feel like Crispin really patches a lot of holes with the deck, and I think it does really well into the metagame where everyone's playing Voodoo and a bunch of other stuff that you can prey on with Miraidon. Speaking of Miraidon, you got to play 4 of him. We got the classy Temporal Forces? Yeah, Temporal Forces pre-release Miraidons. They look really nice. This guy gets 2 energy directly into play. When you play this deck, you always choose to go second, and you always want to attack with him on your first turn. That's the name of the game. Most people on the ladder will let you go second, and that's why this is one of the best cards, and you got to play the maximum copies. Usually don't need more than 1 or 2 of him, but the first 1 or 2 really does a lot of heavy lifting. Next Pokemon in the list is Double Iron Hands EX. If you've been playing Pokemon TCG at all in the last few years, then you'll definitely recognize this card. His first attack, Arm Press, does 160, and his second attack does 120, but if it knocks out a Pokemon, you get to take an extra prize. The ultimate comeback card, the ultimate rushdown card, and he's a future Pokemon to boot, so the Miraidon can attach energies directly to him. Oftentimes, you'll close out games very quickly with a turn 2 amp you very much, thanks to Miraidon plus Crispin. So, very strong card, very important, but you don't need more than 2. He's very easy to search, and rarely will you need a third one. Actually, I've never needed a third one, so that's pretty much that. The next Pokemon in the list is the Triple Iron Leaves EX. Now, this guy I've actually been super impressed with ever since the release of Crispin. This card normally had a bit of an issue where you would just run out of energy in play after playing the first one, but now there are a couple of setups, which you'll see in the matches, involving Crispin or EXP Share that allow you to chain these together, and they become very potent threats. Really strong attacker, attacks for 180. He does have a little bit of a drawback, but you can always retreat him, figure it out with the Prime Catcher. You know the vibes. Anyway, those are your 3 main attackers. Miraidon, Iron Hands, and Iron Leaves. Actually, these are your only attackers. These are the only 3 Pokemon you need to know. Learn what they do, learn them inside and out. That's the vibes. Your support Pokemon, 4 Iron Crown EX. This guy is gorgeous. I love the illustration rare, I believe it is. What is this guy called? It just looks amazing. This card looks fantastic. I don't know if it's really coming across well for you guys. But yeah, gorgeous card. Pumps up all of your future Pokemon's damage by 20 each, and they do stack. So for each one of these you have in play, you can deal up to plus 80 damage per attack, which is just amazing. Any of these Pokemon, Miraidon dealing 100, the Amp You Very Much dealing 200, or the Prism Edge dealing up to 280 with the tool is incredible damage output. You guys understand why dealing more damage is a good thing, I hope. And then the last Pokemon in the list is 1 Iron Bundle. This guy's a little bit of a utility guy. He lets you get rid of a big Pokemon that's in your way, and so that you can maybe Oko a Pokemon that's on the bench that's a little bit weaker. Love this little guy. I'm working on getting one of the nice pre-release ones to match with the rest of my deck. But yeah, great card. Now in some of the replays, I was actually playing 1 Iron Boulder and 1 Fighting Energy. I've since taken them out of my deck, but you can try them out if you want. I really liked the Iron Boulder because he allowed me to one-hit KO Pheasantipity, which is a very commonly played card, and also his ability that the Repulsor Axe, when your opponent tries to attack you back, they take 80 and it softens up their attacker for a KO from either Iron Hands or Iron Leaves, or even Miraidon in some cases on the way back. So really useful card. It helps you against certain matchups like Gardevoir and stuff, but The final list, I did not include him. I have one here lying around somewhere, but this is not in the final list. All right, trainer time. Supporters first. 1, Professor's Research. Now, this is kind of just a Keegan pick. I'm gonna be real. Professor's Research it's fine. It's kind of mid. I'm not gonna lie. It usually doesn't get you what you need, but sometimes it does. I just like Professor Juniper, so I gotta play one and everything. 1, Carmine, similar thing. I really liked this card, actually. A lot of times when you're going first, you just want to be able to hit a supporter, and there's a way you can grab this card, so playing 1 is not that bad. Normally, Dex will play like 4 or something like that just to see it turn 1, but I think just playing 1 with a couple Pokegears, which was what we've got in this list, is plenty. It's a good way to dig through your deck going first and get a good setup going first, so if you do have it when you do go first. Going first sucks with this deck, by the way, but most people make you go second, so that's the vibe. Double Iono. This card's great, actually. I was considering going up to 3 and cutting the Carmine or the Research. Probably the Research, but I really do like Iono. There's nothing like a little bit of late game disruption, and it also helps you in the early game by putting energy back in your deck instead of discarding them so that you can get it with the Miraidon's attack. Those are your draw supporters. The rest are going to be like search or utility supporters. And this is going to be the big one. 4, Crispin. You got to play 4 of this guy. He's absolutely amazing. The full art looks really cool too, by the way. I don't know if you guys can catch all the details on it, but yeah, it looks very nice. The way this card works is you have to have 2 different types of energy in your deck. Electric and grass, obviously. Or if you are playing the Iron Boulder, 1 fighting energy as well. And this will allow you to go for turn 2 attacks that you would never be able to go for if you don't start with Miraidon. So that's really nice. And then also it really accelerates you in the mid game or in certain situations where you need to make a comeback play happen right away and you maybe have run out of energy or your opponent tool jammered your EXP share, that sort of thing. Really important card. It also makes it so that if you miss your energy drop, Pokegear gets you your energy drop. So it's way more consistent at getting that turn 2 Miraidon attack. Just being able to accelerate a 1 energy is really all this deck was missing. It's incredible how much work this card does. I can't recommend playing less than 4. I even tried 3 and I missed the 4th. That's how crazy good this card is in this deck. All right, moving on. 4, Arven. This card is very important for setting up. This gets you the Techno Radar, and it also gets you your tool, so you can retreat directly into your Miraidon for the turn 1 attack. Really, really powerful supporter. However, it's lost a lot of utility here in the era of Voodoo, because if your opponent goes for Voodoo, this card becomes a little bit useless. It just basically gets you a tool and an item that you can't use. So be careful of Voodoo. Of course, if you have the option to select something else off Pokegear and you're facing down to Voodoo, then that might be the right pick. Arven is a great supporter. It's probably one of the best supporters in this entire format, and it's been the best supporter for a very long time in the Pokemon trading card game. If you've played at all, you understand why searching for any 2 cards is incredibly powerful. And then the last supporter is going to be Boss's Orders. This deck does play 4 Boss's Orders. This card is too strong not to play 4 of in this deck. There are so many games where you'll get Iono'd and you just need to rip one of these, and so that's why we play the full 4. Also, like Pokegear, you want to be able to find this off of Pokegear as consistently as possible. So yeah, quad Boss's Orders. It just brings up the weak guy. You kill it with Iron Hands, you win the game. Keeps the game very simple, especially if you're newer at the game, and that's really all you can ask for. Speaking of Pokegear, double Pokegear. This card's great in this deck. The list I copied wasn't playing it, and I was shocked because this card does it all. It either gets you the Crispin for your energy, or it gets you the Arven for your setup, or it gets you the bosses for your late game. So it scales really well. It also grabs like Iono or draw supporters if you absolutely need a hand refresh. But yeah, this is one of the best cards in the deck. It just like really smooths out the consistency. Make sure you find your setup, and I like playing 2. I tried 3, didn't like 3, so went to 2. That's pretty much it. And then the other gust effects, we got 1 Prime Catcher and 1 Counter Catcher. So yeah, playing the Counter Catcher and the Prime Catcher. Now, I will say this. I played the Counter Catcher a lot, actually in almost every single one of my games. In the last 10 games, when I was getting to Arceus, I did cut Counter Catcher for an energy search because I wanted Arven to be able to get me an energy. It came up once or twice, and the Counter Catcher only came up once or twice, and I was just testing it here and there. However, I do think the Counter Catcher is probably going to yield better results overall, but something worth testing is cutting the Counter Catcher and adding an energy search, because they will both be useful in about the same amount of cases. Probably the Counter Catcher a little bit more useful. Between the 2 Pokegears, the 4 bosses, and the Prime Catcher and the Counter Catcher, you will have 8 gust effects, which is really strong, and 2 of which you can search off of Arven, which is really nice. So yeah, really, really strong. The list I copied was not playing Prime Catcher, which I don't really understand why. I don't get it. This card is so broken. This is probably the best card in the deck. It just wins the game. If your opponent ever tries to stall you out on an EXP shared guy or something like that, you just arm it for Prime Catcher, take their guy, and then just win the game pretty much. Best card in the deck. Don't play a different. It's no point. Just play Prime Catcher. All right. Don't even think about it. Don't make it complicated. Double nest ball to search out for the Miraidon. That's pretty much it. It's just there to search Miraidon turn 1. The list I copied, again, wasn't playing these, and I just was missing Miraidon turn 1 way too much. So I was like, all right, we need to get Miraidon a little bit more consistently. Let's get some nest balls in here. These are also nice, too, because it's a sort of way to grab an Iron Crown or an Iron Hands or something like that, or the Iron Bundle, but it doesn't require a discard like Techno Radar. Extra ball search is usually pretty decent at making your deck more consistent, and these were a key factor in making it so that I could go all the way from Pokeball to Arceus rank in 3 days. Maximum consistency is super important when you're grinding a ladder type thing. Quad Techno Radar, this card is gas. I need to get those new Pokeball foils ASAP. If you have them and you want to trade me, let me know, because I really want them. They look very nice. But these reverse holos look nice too. Discard 1, search 2 future Pokemon, searches your whole deck. You grab this off of Arvin 99% of the time. But it's a great setup card. It gets you to Miraidon. It gets you to Leaves late game so that you can break out your attackers. It gets you to your crowns, double crown, so you can get the plus power action going on. Now the next part of the deck, I couldn't find a second town store, but I'm supposed to play 2. In all of the lists that I was using, all of the lists I used to grind, whether it was with the Iron Boulder without, or with the Energy Search or without, I played 2 town store. And instead, I'm going to show you guys that I have 4 future booster capsules. Haha, there you go. You can see that I have 4, but one of these is supposed to be a town store. I was playing 2 town store, 3 future booster, and 3 EXP share to round out the tools part of this deck. Now, tools got changed, actually, recently. I'm not sure when, but they're no longer considered item cards. They're actually considered tool cards now. These look really good. God damn. I mean, gosh darn, that's what I meant to say. But yeah, they're considered tool cards now, which means that if Voodoo hits you with the Voodoo attack, you can still attach tools, which is pretty darn important. I'll just say that much. So you have 8 cards that are still usable even when you get Voodooed. And in fact, this deck really punishes everyone going for that turn 1 Voodoo really hard. Because besides Techno Radar and Nest Ball and then I guess Counter Catcher if you need to, and Prime Catcher, you really only have 8 cards that get locked by Voodoo, because if you have Pokegear and you go first, you just fire off the Pokegear if you see Voodoo. So it's like you don't even get hurt by Voodoo at all, which is really nice. Item Lock just has very little effect on this deck, which is, I can't even tell you how nice it is to not have to worry about being item locked. It's just a dream. Anyway, play 2 town store. It's important because Tool Jammer does a number on this deck, so you need a couple ways to bump that, and there's really no way to search a stadium in this deck, so you got to play multiples. The rest is just energy, 8 grass, and 4 lightning. That's pretty much it. Like I said, if you play the boulder, you can swap either a grass or a lightning for a fighting, but I obviously just am showing you guys this list because it's the most concise, it's the most clean. Most of your setups are going to look something like this. I'll show you a brief little layout of what it's going to look like. You'll probably go for Miraidon as your attacker, and then your bench will probably look something like a couple of crowns, maybe even like an Iron Hands, something like this. And then what you'll want to do is you'll try to get double EXP share down on the crowns like this. This is your kind of goal. So you get the double EXP on the crowns, and then you get an energy here on Miraidon, and then you go for your move. And then when you go for your move, you can put energy down here onto the Iron Hands, either Lightning or Lightning Grass, depending on your hand. And then if they knock out any of your Pokemon, your energy just float back to the crowns. And then when you need to play a follow-up attacker, you'll have energy on the crowns. You'll play the Iron Leaves, and then it'll move all the energy to the active for the Iron Leaves. And then if your opponent knocks out your Iron Leaves, the energy float back to the crowns, you rinse and repeat, you just keep playing Leaves until you win the game. So that's kind of the setup that you're looking to go for most of the time. It works really nicely unless your opponent has a Tool Jammer, but yeah, that's pretty much that. Let me go ahead and hop into the gameplay. So, I played about 60, 70 games to get from Pokeball to Master Ball rank. Average win streaks, usually somewhere between 5 and 10. The deck feels pretty strong in some matchups. I've curated here 12 of the matches that I think kind of showcase the deck and kind of showcase the journey as best as possible. The first one here is going to be Future versus Future, so it's going to be in the mirror match. The opponent won the coin flip and is deciding who goes first. So, yeah, pretty brutal. Going second in the mirror match is obviously where you want to be. You want to be the first person to attack with Miraidon if possible, and you want your opponent to not attack with Miraidon first if possible. You get that initial advantage, and you can kind of carry that momentum throughout the rest of the game. Okay, so first off here, we've started off with Iron Leaves, and the opening hand is not great, plus we're going first, so not ideal. You'll notice Judge in the hand. I'd been testing Judge. This is one of the first matches I played with the deck, because Judge was in the initial list. I inevitably went off of Judge and went to Iono, and the reason because Iono is so much better at getting you set up, whereas Judge isn't, and Iono does basically the same thing later on, but is actually kind of nice because it puts cards your opponent may be sandbagging to the bottom of their deck, which is really nice, so I much prefer that ability. Here we draw into Carmine, so we've got our Carmine on the first turn of the game, which is really nice. I may have been playing more copies of Carmine. I eventually went back down to one, but I don't know what I was playing exactly in this first initial version of the list. I go ahead and attach our stuff, Carmine away, and here we are. We've got our full setup. I've got the Techno Radar, I've got my Iron Leaves in play, I can Techno Radar and pitch probably the Judge here, maybe I just pass. Yeah, I just pass. This is, again, one of the first matches I'm playing with the deck. I noticed my opponent's on this really interesting Miraidon that says, during your next turn, prevent all damage done to each of your future Pokemon by attacks from Pokemon EX. If this Pokemon is no longer your active Pokemon, this effect ends. So, you can bosses around this effect, but it's a really unique and difficult effect for us to deal with. That being said, we could still KO this with either 3 crowns and a tool plus a Miraidon, or 4 crowns and a Miraidon, so not too big of a deal there. He's going to go ahead and Arvent and get his full setup, which is really ugly, but thankfully for us, he's playing a bit of a different lineup. He's not playing the Arvens, he's not playing the future, the EXP shares, which I think help us chain attackers much more easily. He's going to go for the Miraidon, attack for 60 because he's got the 1 crown in play, and get the accelerants onto his different Miraidon, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, going second sucks. We draw into another Judge. Oh my gosh, this card sucks. I'm so happy that I cut it as I was laddering because it just sits in your hand and never does anything. It's the best discard fodder. Anyway, we go ahead and we Techno Radar, grab ourselves our crown, our Miraidon, that sort of thing. We want to get our attack going. I decided to swap out for the Iron Hands EX because I think I'm behind here, so I'm probably going to need to use the Amp You Very Much on one of his Pokemon to come back in the game. So that's kind of my goal here. I'm not sure if this was the right play at all. I could have just Crispined and attacked with the active. I mean, there's a bunch of different things I could have done here, but I decided to go for this and attach to the Iron Hands and then retreat the guy and then attack with the Peak Acceleration for 40 to try and set up the Iron Hands. I'm not sure if this was the correct play, but I think getting off multiple Amp You Very Much is probably going to be my pathway to victory here. And the Iron Leaves in the active had damage on it, so I didn't want to full commit to that, especially because the EXP share is much more valuable on the bench. Anyway, he benches a Mew EX, which is something that a lot of other future decks play, my older versions included, but I didn't like it, and honestly it just gives your opponent like targets, like for all sorts of things. It's just a 2-prizer that has very low stats. You're never attacking with it. The restart ability very rarely comes up. It's fine to start with because it can retreat for free, but it's just kind of a liability. It's a 2-prize liability, and you want every card in your deck to be geared towards this sort of like setup. And I think Mew EX, while fine, it just kind of takes up space and it kind of bricks. You want to have as active an opening hand as possible, and if you open up with Mew EX, that's one less card towards a potential turn 1 Miraidon attack. So that's one of the things that I think this future deck really prides itself in, is that even though it's not the most powerful deck, it's not like Regidrago, for example, is way consistent. So like more often than not, you're going to be getting like your turn 2 attack, like we were able to, or like we're going to be able to in a lot of these videos that I'm going to show you guys.
So yeah, we got our boy out here. We got Arvin, we got Judge. We're trying to figure out exactly what to go for. I decided to just Arvin, grab Techno Radar, and grab the EXP share. Or I decided to go for a Future Booster. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I'm trying to think why I would do that. Probably should have grabbed the EXP share. Oh, I guess because I have the town store, so I can just grab the EXP share. I don't really know what I'm thinking about here, but I decided to just get some crowns down because that's the vibe. I probably should have gotten an EXP share here. I can only hit for 80, but that's going to be enough to knock out the Miraidon, grab 2 more energy, and I decided to attach 1 to each crown. That's a little silly, but honestly it's fine because Leaves plus the Future Booster can be strong enough here. It'll deal 240 to KO over his Iron Crown or Iron Hands, and then he just really has nothing going on for him. So yeah, as you can see here in the mirror match, we are much more able to stream our attackers back to back because the Leaves and the EXP shares and the Crispin allows you to get so much energy in play that it's really, really hard for your opponent to keep up that resource fight in the mirror match. So that's really nice. If they are not playing Crispins or whatever. Like here, it's you know, powerful effect. He's going to be able to amp you very much, knock out my Miraidon, and take 2 prizes. That's really good. That's really, really strong. But it's not strong enough to take the rest of the 4 prizes on its own. He needs to be able to stream attackers to go through all of those prizes. And I found that when you're just playing these Turbo Hands versions, you can't have enough resources more often than not to be able to get multiple prizes back to back to back. You really have to prey on your opponent bricking when it's just Turbo Hands, no Leaves, no EXP share, no Crispin, that sort of thing. And so the Crispin allows you to really have these backup attackers. Because like now, look, even if he knocks out my Leaves, I get to float an energy to the bench, I get to promote Iron Hands, I get to knock out his Pokemon, and then he's all out of energy. And all of his Pokemon take multiple energy to attack. He's not even going to be able to knock out the Leaves with what he has going on, unless he's able to find his own Leaves here with a grass energy, which totally understandable that could happen. But if that does happen, like I said, I've got my Hands, I've got my Arvin, I've got everything else locked in here, and he's just not going to be able to deal with that sort of pressure. He's going to touch a Psychic Energy to Mew EX. I did test Psychic Energies. It never came up on the Miraidon, so I just don't play them. It's much better to just have the Lightnings and the Grasses for your actual attackers, and Miraidon can just use his 1 energy attack. He decides to go for the 120 on the Iron Leaves, and I'm actually going to end the game right here. I'm going to be able to attach the Future Booster, attach the Energy, Boss's Orders to the Mew, and then retreat to the Iron Hands, and amp you very much for 3 prizes on the Mew. And this is another reason why I really hate Mew, is it's just an amp you very much target for 3 prizes, which is really, really ugly. So even though we went first, even though we had kind of a weaker start than the opponent, the power of Crispin and the power of the Leaves and the EXP shares, you guys can see how much depth and how much dexterity like it really brings to the deck. The follow-up is so good. You can put so much energy into play by turn 3. You can have like 8 energy in play by turn 3, which is ridiculous. And it basically just means that you have a bunch of attackers for whatever. So this is the first matchup I wanted to show you guys because it's a mirror match. It showcased kind of the Iron Hands versus the Iron Leaves Crispin sort of engines, and why the Iron Leaves Crispin is just so much more versatile and also so much more resilient to just losing an attacker, losing the coin flip, that sort of thing. It's very easy to come back into the game with it. The next match I want to show you guys is versus Moon Moon. This match actually has a really cool dynamic, or this matchup, where Roaring Moon EX, when it knocks out your Pokemon, it doesn't do it by damage. So the energies won't go back to your bench on the EXP shares. The EXP shares need your active Pokemon to be knocked out by damage. But Roaring Moon's first attack, I think it's like, I don't remember, it deals like 200 to itself, and then he knocks out your Pokemon. That doesn't float your energy with EXP share. So that's actually a huge downside to facing this matchup. That actually gives them a huge edge. But we do hit them for weakness with Leaves, which is always good. And if they do go for that move, I think it's called Frenzied Gouging, if I'm remembering it correctly. If they do go for that move, then they put themselves in the KO range of just another Miraidon, so we can get some pretty favorable price trades. That being said, they also have the Baby Moon, which can deal a lot of damage, and it can knock out Iron Crowns pretty early on. So, yeah, it's a really back and forth matchup. It's one of the more fun matchups that I faced in the ladder. I think I faced it 3 or 4 times, and I beat it every time except for once. And in that one time they beat me, they really played to all of that frenzy gouging, dodging the EXP shares, using the Roaring Moon, the baby moon, to knock out the crowns, and then using Pecharunt as like kind of a, is it Pecharunt, something like that. That guy to really, really fuck our shit up, basically, for lack of a better word. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and get our Miraidon here. As you can see, I've added the Nest Balls to increase consistency, and they are already paying off hugely here, because if I didn't have a Nest Ball, I would have been forced to bench this Leaves. It wouldn't have been great, you know the vibes. Ultra Ball here, he did get to go second. He did win the die roll, which is pretty unlucky, because once again, this is like a basic attack turn 2 style matchup, and really want to be the person who goes second in this matchup, because if you get your Miraidon attack off, that means they have to use their Frenzied Gouging on your Miraidon or their attack on your Miraidon, and then you get all the energy in play, and then you can just Iron Leaves KO their Roaring Moon, and it's just very difficult for them to keep resources up when compared to you chaining Iron Leaves. It's a little bit more easy to chain Iron Leaves and Miraidons than it is to chain Roaring Moon EXs, because they're so energy intensive. Also, the interesting thing is, like, let's say I go second, I use my Miraidon, I chip damage, I put 2 grass energies on my Pokemon. He uses the second attack, which I believe is Calamity Storm. He uses that to knock out the Miraidon. Okay, then the energy floats, and then I get to use the Iron Leaves to return KO, right? And now he has a tough decision. Does he want to knock out the Iron Leaves with Calamity Storm and give me the energy float for the potential Iron Leaves reversal, or does he want to use the Frenzy Gouging, choke me off the energy, but then give me the opportunity to use Miraidon to KO him back? So there's this huge like back and forth play dynamic in this matchup, and you guys can kind of see it in this matchup, not entirely. I think it would have been pretty good for him to attach the Pecharunt there. Not really certain why he didn't do that, but he does miss the turn 2 attack, which it's pretty difficult to hit a turn 2 attack in this deck sometimes. Even with the Squawkabilly, even with the Pokestop, sometimes you're just going to miss that energy attached to the active with, or double Dark Patch or whatever it is. Anyway, as it stands, we've got a pretty good setup here. I decide to go for the Pokestop. Maybe I don't. I decide to go for Arven first. I probably should have gone for the Pokestop first in case we hit the Techno Radar. Yeah, maybe I didn't want to use the Pokestop in case I milled too many crucial cards. If you mill too many attackers in this matchup, it can be really rough. So I usually don't go for the Pokestop unless I absolutely have to. Here comes the Techno Radar. I am going to decide to pitch, I believe, the EXP Share, because I'm pretty confident he's going to go for the Frenzy Gouging at some point to just return KO the Iron Leaves, but could be wrong about all that. I don't really know. Anyway, I decided to attach the EXP Share to Iron Hands. That's a huge choke. I should have attached it to the Iron Crown. Pretty big misplay on my part. Once again, these are some of the earlier matches in the climb, and I was still learning where you attach the tools to, but you definitely should attach the EXP Share to the crowns. Just because, like, if your opponent knocks out the crowns, then they're not killing your energy in play. And if they kill the Pokemon that has your energy in play, well, then it floats to the crowns, and then you can leave it back. So it puts them in between a rock and a hard place. So generally like to attach the EXP shares to the crowns. And I learned this the hard way through laddering with the deck, that sort of thing. But it's just one of those quick adjustments. Once you know about it, you can kind of just switch that switch in your brain and go from there. So we're able to deal 80, which is nice preliminary damage. It means that we'll be able to KO the Roaring Moon with just about anything at this point. However, it wasn't 100, which would have been really nice, because 100 means that he couldn't go for his Frenzied Gouging without knocking out himself. He decides to promote the other Roaring Moon, and I was wondering why he wasn't getting poisoned, and it's because the Ancient Booster Capsule prevents the poison from the Pecharunt effect. Anyway, we end up benching a second Miraidon here, because once again, we're getting to that point where like a second Miraidon might be really useful. We do have a lot of energy loaded onto this Iron Hands, which is not great, but alas, it is what it is. I decided to start dispersing the energy here, and I make a pretty crucial misplay. I actually should have put that lightning energy onto one of the crowns instead, just because I already have 3 energy on the Iron Hands, and it's very unlikely I'll be using the Ampy very much on the Squawkabilly unless my opponent's like totally bricked. But that's a little bit unrealistic, especially when he has the active Greninja. So yeah, he's gonna go for the concealed cards, draw 2. A lot of this matchup is sort of like posturing and like trying to bait your opponent into making a play that you can punish with like a second Miraidon or an Iron Leaves at any point. But yeah, it's mostly just about like you're trying to posture in certain ways and like bait them, Yeah, so as you can see here, this is really ugly. I mean, we're going to get knocked out with Frenzy Gouging anyway, so the EXP share wouldn't have mattered being on the crown, but just assume, for instance, here that we have all our energy on our Iron Hands. We would much rather have the EXP share on the crown. And I think this is the match where I learned that, and I just wanted to point this out for anyone watching this video to learn from my mistakes, basically. He's able to take 2 prizes here, but he had to use the Frenzy Gouging to do it, and so now we're going to be able to use Miraidon to return KO and set up several energy here, and it's just going to be hard for him to come back. We Town Store, we have no more things to hit. I do have that Judge, and this is one of those games where, like, you can see here that as I moved away from Judge and towards Iono is going to be so much more useful this game than Judge ever would be, because he's going to knock out my Pokemon, and as you can see, Iono's already, like, just as good as Judge, but it's going to give him less cards to work with, so he decides to promote the Radiant Greninja here. He has to take a 1 prize knockout here if he wants to KO the Miraidon. He's going to Nest Ball, grab another Roaring Moon EX. So he's building up a board. He doesn't have a lot of energy. Once he runs out of energy here, it's going to be really hard. That's the thing about Radiant Greninja too, is it's very energy intensive. So like you oftentimes have to choose between going for the concealed cards or going for your attach for turn. And that like just choice, putting that choice, that difficult choice onto the opponent is extra layers of like potential misplays that they can make, or extra layers of like just potential resource chokes that you can go for. Because like I said, this deck is very resource light. It's very simple. It takes very little to get going. And almost every single deck in the format takes like a ridiculous amount of effort to get their engine going. While some decks may be more powerful if they do get going, it's just unrealistic to expect them to get going as consistently as the Future Leaves deck is going to be in that case. So yeah, he's going to go ahead, move the Roaring Moon to the active. He can now use the Calamity Storm to knock out the Miraidon if he wants to. We're going to be able to... Oh no, we don't float the energy because I obviously didn't attach the EXP share to the right Pokemon there. So it is what it is. But yeah, we do top deck into the Leaves, which is really nice. We go ahead and Nest Ball, grab another Crown, which is perfect. We can attach the Future Booster probably to the Leaves. I think I decided to attach it to the Leaves. I use the Rapid Vernier to move all of the... I'm not even sure if I'm saying that word right, but we have a bunch of different things we could do here. We could Arvin, we could Judge, we could do whatever. The whole hand is really nice. I decided to attach the Futures to the bench so I don't get like boss locked for whatever reason. I decided to just go for Prism Edge. I don't want to give him extra resources to work with. He only has 3 cards anyway, so Judge wouldn't even be that useful here. And he needs 2 energy on his Roaring Moon EX in order to even attack the Iron Leaves back. And in that case, he would need to use the the Frenzy Gouging to knock me out. And then all I need is to use the Crispin in my hand to find an energy for the Miraidon to knock out his Roaring Moon, and then I win the game. So he's kind of in a checkmate position right now. And as you can see, he's going to figure that out and concede. So yeah, really cool matchup, really fun matchup. Definitely one of the more fun matchups that you can play with this deck. And I just really like Pokemon right now because a lot of the matchups are about this like sort of posturing, this baiting, like this like you're trying to trick people into making certain moves, and then you hit them with like a certain play or certain tech they're not ready for, or I don't know, it's just really cool. There's a lot of back and forth and a lot of nuance and intricacy to like even these very simple, I would say almost linear decks like Roaring Moon EX and Future. I actually really do love the linear nature of the big basic decks in this format. Roaring Moon EX is probably one of my favorite decks in the format next to Future, so it's obviously, like, I could talk about it for days. But moving on, the next match I want to show you guys is versus Scovillain, and the only reason I'm showing you this is because my buddy Joe loves this deck, and I don't know if he'll ever watch this video, but if he ever does stumble across this, I just want to show myself destroying Scovillain. Nah, I'm just kidding. But yeah, this Scovillain deck is interesting. I've wanted to cook with it for a little while because Fire and Grass is really good coverage. Fire hits the Arc Dialga deck really, really well, and the Grass hits the what is that? Grass hits Charizard and the Dark decks like Roaring Moon. So it hits 2 types for weakness that are really popular, and the Scovillain has a cool like dual type sort of thing. It's always just, those decks are sweet in my opinion. Anyway, you'll notice that I was encountering a very common PTCG live bug where the EXP share is just a blacked out card in my hand for some fucking reason. I don't know why that was. I switched to a different art of EXP share and then it started working again after that. So I don't I don't know why that was, but yeah. The Scovillain deck is interesting. The way it works is the guy does 70 more for like every damage counter on him. So you try to like get a Magma Basin damage counter or something like that. And as you can see at this point, I've started winning more games. I've leveled up the rarity of my deck. I've got the nice max rarity Iron Leaves. They look so clean. We go ahead and fire off the Miraidon attack turn 2. And yeah, we're just really, really set up. It's pretty difficult for him to come back from this point. Just because we can KO even the big Scovillain. If he gets one set up with double energy and damage on it, he's taking 1 prize, we're taking 2, and then we're just winning that race every single day of the week. We might even take 3 if we're able to find a Crispin or something like that. He plays the Gape Job Bog, which is something that this deck likes to play. He plays it after playing his guy. Normally you'd want to play your guy first, or not play your, play your Gape Job Bog first so that you would get damage counters on your baby Scovillain. I don't know what his fucking name is, but you get the idea. And then he researches, and I'm like, interesting. So the sequencing here, not the best from the opponent, and I'm not sure if better sequencing would have won him this game, I'll be honest, but still interesting. This deck does play Magma Basin sometimes, so it can still like come back into the game. Like you can, even if you lose energy here and there or whatever. I decide to play another Crown and just knock out the Dodrio. I mean, this is going to put me on even prizes again, which is going to be really nice. And then I'm going to get up to that Ampu very much for 180 here, which I can use to take 2 prizes at any point. I've got the double EXP share set up. This is pretty much checkmate. I don't know, man. It's really hard for these types of decks to come back from this. He Ionos me. Totally fine. We can even KO the active with the Iron Leaves. He does have the Hero's Cape, which could complicate things for us. And he does have the Pheasantipity. So Pheasantipity is a big part of this metagame. And like I said, I was using the Iron Boulder later on. It might show up in one of these replays or 2 of these replays just to KO Pheasantipities. I don't know if Iron Boulder is the most consistent choice or whether it's better to just always go hard hands every single time and then just double EXP share and do that game plan. But I did really like the instances where I was able to KO my opponent's Pheasantipity with Iron Boulder, put up that Repulsor Axe revenge damage, and deny them the comeback draw 3. I forget what that, I think it's called Flip the Script ability is. God, I hate that card so much. I think Pheasantipity is broken as heck. It's one of the cards I do miss playing in this deck, but you really can't afford to play it. Getting stuck in the active is so terrible and just makes you miss Miraidon attacks. Not what you want at all. Here I decided to go for an Arven. I don't really know what I was thinking, but I just wanted to get my checkmate situation going. Oh, Prime Catcher. Yeah, I wanted to Prime Catcher the Luminion and then maybe set up like a boss KO with the Iron Leaves. But yeah, Luminion, if it's ever benched against you, it's just 3 prizes with Iron Hands, so he really bullies these types of cards. He bullies cards like Lugia. He bullies cards like, I don't even know what else. We can get Iono'd here, which is a little bit rough. You can see I do have the Boulder in this matchup. I was testing it out at this point. We could get Iono'd here to 1, which is like always going to be pretty ugly. But we have so much time. Like, we've taken 5 prizes. Like, he has to take 6 prizes. Like, he's so far off from even attacking for any amount of reasonable damage, you know? Like, this game could go a billion different ways, and all of them are going to end with us winning. He goes for Boss's Orders on the Miraidon. He can now KO the Miraidon, but if we can Pokegear into a Boss's, which is kind of the goal here, then we can just win the game. So, that's pretty cool. He's able to take 1 prize. I go ahead and promote the Iron Hands. I draw for turn Ace Iono. I shotgun the Pokegear. No Bosses, which, SMH, bro, SMH. I just put the Boulder down, go for the Crispy Boy, grab the Fighting in the Grass. The nice thing about Crispy Boy plus Boulder is that it's a guaranteed attack with Boulder, which is really nice. And the attack is pretty strong. It's like 120 plus 80 on the revenge damage. He's really useful against decks like Gardevoir, where they'll put a bunch of damage on a Drifloon, and then they'll attack you, and then you'll do the repulsor damage back, and it'll also KO the Drifloon. So he allows you to take 2 prizes against 1 prizer decks, which is as useful as it sounds. It's quite useful in a lot of cases. I mean, Ampu Very Much also allows you to do that, but Ampu Very Much is very resource intensive. It takes 4 energy, whereas the Iron Boulder only takes 2. We go ahead and attack for 120. Just putting him in the range where we can knock him out at some point with whatever. If he attacks me, it's going to do 80 back, and then he'll drop to He'll take 210, he'll drop to 150, and then the Iron Hands can KO him. So, yeah, and it's also very resource light. You can see here, if they KO Iron Boulder, then the energy will just float back to the EXP shared Iron Crowns. And yeah, it's just a cool card. I think that if I was to take this to a tournament, I would consider playing the Iron Boulder, because I think a lot of people are unfamiliar playing against it, so it might create some instances for misplays. But as far as laddering goes, I think it's just much more straightforward to go for the hands and the leaves only, and it's just like, it's less thinking. I don't know how to describe that, but it's less thinking. Iron Boulder is really good though, so that's going to be that match. Moving on, this is up against Dragapult. Dragapult is one of those decks that I didn't think would be so common on the ladder, but it's like probably the most common deck I faced. Dragapult and Charizard. Charizard, I faced a lot of them early on, and this deck just fucking smokes Charizard. I think I have 1 or 2 matches later on versus Charizard. I think only one that I was going to show. But I have some matches versus, quite a few matches versus Dragapult, which I think is worth showing. This matchup is very difficult. I think it's a very back and forth matchup, but I think it's slightly in your favor because you can really run away with things, and they need a lot of resources to get going. Especially these ones, the Iron Thorns Dragapult. So this is a pretty popular deck. Iron Thorns has an ability that locks all your abilities except for future Pokemon, which is really funny because our whole deck is future Pokemon, so we just don't care about Iron Thorns. Iron Thorns is actually quite a liability against us, so playing against Iron Thorns deck, another deck that a lot of people hate, they think it's like annoying, they think it's frustrating, it's just a free win for us, which is really nice. We open up with the Techno Radars. We were able to Techno Radar, pitch Techno Radar, just get fully set up. The Boulder also really helps here. Boulder just KOs Iron Thorns, which is really nice. Now, if we had the Crispin, we have no energy here, which is kind of the downside to our hand. We have no energy. We're not going to be able to turn to attack, which is ugly. But if we did have the Crispin here, we would be able to donk an Iron Thorns with Iron Boulder. We attach the Future Booster to the active, Future Booster to the Iron Boulder, Techno Radar, get the crowns, and then Crispin attach 2 energies to Iron Boulder and attack for 240 damage on the first turn of the game. So, yeah, really, really, really strong using the Iron Boulder in some cases against these types of like Iron Thorns decks. So, really do think that the Boulder might be worth it. Again, I went back and forth between playing him. I think it's simpler not to play him. It's less thinking, which is powerful in and of itself. But I do think his niche abilities are quite useful. Anyway, we bench the second Miraidon, which might be a huge misplay, but who knows. He goes for the Arvent. I generally don't like to bench 2 Miraidons, but I'm a little nervous that he'll have a Crispin of his own and KO our first Miraidon, and then we'll have to promote the second one. But I'm not really certain here. We need to hit an energy to be able to work with. And we're about, 21? We're 16 cards deep, and we haven't hit an energy, and we play 12. So that's pretty unlucky, generally speaking. This deck, like I said, it doesn't get unlucky that often. It needs very little to get going. It just needs Miraidon plus energy, right? Like, that's very simple. But, like, sometimes you just miss one of those 2 things. And this is an instance, like, look at this Arven. If this Arven could get an energy search, then the game would be over. It would just end this game. But because the Arven doesn't get energy, I'm just sitting here like, well, I gotta wait another turn for my opponent to potentially get even more set up, which is so ugly. And I can't even put the EXP shares into play because I've locked my own bench here. I decided to grab Pokegear and Future Booster Capsule so that next turn I can try to Pokegear to dig for a Crispin. So that's generally the line I had been going for, is Arven for Pokegear try to hit Crispin to get energies if you are energy light. It's not good, right? It takes a full turn cycle. Whereas if you could just Arven for energy search, it'd be so much easier. But it is what it is. It is what it is. It's fine. We're gonna be able to KO the Thorns. The matchup is good. The opponent's got 2 free prizes sitting there. They got a Dracloak. They've got some Dreepy. They got some pretty foils on their cards. Max rarity, all that good stuff. But we should be okay here. You know, we should be okay. He attaches the Future Booster Capsule. He's got that brand new Dragapult from the Prismatic Evolution. I don't know what that set is called. I don't know. But we rip an energy, finally, which is great. We realize we have no more tools. We go ahead and attach the grass. Now we can double EXP share. We can bosses up his Dragapult. And The reason I'm doing this is because I can one-shot the Thorns, but I can't one-shot the Dragapult. So I want to be able to deal 120 damage to the Dragapult. So now it's got only 200 hit points remaining, which makes it pretty easy for me to knock that out. That's going to be the Iron Boulder for 120 plus the Repulsor Axe for another 80. That'll be enough damage to knock out the Dragapult. So Iron Boulder can return the KO here. As you can see, though, like, this is one of those instances where, like, having an Iron Boulder doesn't really, like, there's very little difference between this being an Iron Boulder and an Iron Hands. The nice thing is Iron Boulder does have 10 extra hit points, and a lot of decks are built to deal 230. Like, for example, the Miraidon EX decks, they'll use the Zapdos plus Miraidon EX to deal 230, and Iron Boulder is just an MVP in that matchup because he hits them for weakness, knocks out all their Pokemon, and can't be knocked out back that easily. So that's another matchup where the Iron Boulder becomes very useful. He just has a lot of utility. I didn't expect for this to be so much of an Iron Boulder discussion during the middle part of this video, but yeah, you get the idea. Maybe I should have included it in the deck profile. I don't know what I'm talking about. All right, just attach the grass, go for the Crispy Boy. You can even play double fighting if you want to go for the big attack. If you want to go for the big attack here, the Iron Boulder could KO anything, but yeah, we just decided to go for the Crispy Boy, get some more energy into play. Town Store, go grab our tool, the Future Booster, retreat that boy out to the Iron Boulder. We're dealing 240 now with the Repulsor Axe, and if he attacks me back, he's also going to take 80 chip, which is beautiful. So yeah, great stuff with the Boldy here, that Boldy boy. Having the second Miraidon in play is obviously not great here, but the opponent also has taken 0 prize cards. He's got his own Crispin, he's got the prettier looking Crispins. I've just got the Pokeball foil ones, which I think look nice on the online play, you know. You don't need to have the max rarity, you don't need to go crazy with the code cards or whatever else. He puts 20 on each of my Iron Crowns, and then he does 200 to the Iron Boulder. But like I said, that extra hit points is really nice because even 2 Radiant Alakazam, he's going to need 2 Radiant Alakazam pings to kill it, and we're going to be able to deal 80 back to him, and potentially just close this one out with a couple of Boss's orders. I think I may have misplayed here. I'm not really sure. I'm trying to think about what the play is. Obviously, if I have a second Fighting Energy, this game is very easy. But this is where it gets awkward. If you accidentally lock up your own bench with Miraidon, like I have, don't do that, A. B, if you do end up doing that, having the second Fighting Energy is pretty important because the Boulder, he has kind of a hard damage cap of a certain amount. I decide to Boss's orders the weakened Dragapult here, which is a huge mistake. I should have just attacked the one with 80 damage on it. Definitely a mistake there, because now he can just retreat this one and then hit me with the other one, and I'm still so much further away. Actually, it might not have been a mistake. Maybe I was thinking that if I get the damage on the weakened Dragapult EX, that I can then KO both of them back-to-back with double Miraidon. He ends up going for Boss's orders here, which is really, really rough on the EXP shared crown because I've locked my bench and I can no longer use the leaves to switch this guy out of the active, but he dealt 20 damage to it, so it's going to get knocked out here, so it should be fine. He's going to be able to knock out the Boulder and the active Iron Crown for quite a bit, for 4 prize cards, so not great. Not great for the home team here, but active Miraidon still kicking. It would have been probably better for him to put the 40 he put on the other crowns onto one of the Miraidons so he could get a double prize turn KOing both Miraidons. That might have actually been better for him. Alas. So I decided to go for the Rapid Vernier here. This is a misplay, I think. I think I end up retreating back into Miraidon anyway. So this is a pretty big mistake on my part. I shouldn't have played it. I ended up noticing my mistake here because... Well, I guess I have to attack the one that has energy. I can't really afford to not attack the one with energy. Can I? Huh. I don't know what I was thinking here. I think I messed this turn up bad. This is a messy turn from me. I think I do end up retreat. This was really stupid. This whole situation was dumb. Because I'm basically just hoping he doesn't have bosses or whatever. And I wasted a bunch of resources there for no fucking reason. But it's okay. It ends up being okay, I think. Because I don't think he can... Because he didn't put the 40 on the Miraidon, he can't take 2 prizes here. And that's all that matters, really, is he can't take 2 prizes. He needs the Radiant Alakazam, and I don't even know if he plays it. I don't even know if the Thorns builds play it, because if Thorns is in the active, then I don't think he can use the Radzam. But yeah, he goes for the Double Drake Cloak, attaches all that good stuff, but it won't matter. It's over. It's over for him. He knows it's over. He's just burning time. He's gonna go for his big Phantom Dive, and then we're gonna knock out that boy. Yeah, attach that tool. Attach the last tool. I don't know me. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. I got the boss's orders. It's over. You bench the Pheasantipity. The mistake has already been made. It's too late. It's too late. The one Prizer Miraidon, too powerful. Yeah, my terrible playing this game actually ended up working out all right, because we got the Iron Leaves in play. So when we got Iono'd, we still have that boy with the energy. We got the boss's orders. The boss's orders to bring up the Pheasantipity, and we got the KO for the last 2 prizes. So, yeah, good stuff. Maybe I was actually 5-head with all those plays this game. I don't know. I'd have to rewatch the tapes. Whatever. Moving on. This one's a crazy one. This one was like a sudden death match, I think. Yeah, where we go into sudden death, which is really cool. I didn't even know that was like a thing that could happen, but it happens with Dusknoir, apparently. You can force a sudden death situation. We start off with hands. He starts off with Duskull. I misplay the heck out of this game. I'm actually not even going to show you this game because I misplay like crazy. But I am going to show you what happens when we get to the end here. We get to the end. I've got 1 prize. And my opponent's got 2 prizes, right? And he gets me to a point where he's at 1 prize, I think. Or he gets me to a point where he has to Dusknoir and pop my Iron Crown that has 100 on it. So I decide to attack or something like that. He can't KO the active. He gets to a point on his turn where he can't KO the active. I should have just won this game, but I'm saving you guys the time. But this is just an interesting thing that I didn't know happened on Pokemon TCG Live. He goes for the Cursed Blast, and because both of our Pokemon are knocked out at the same time, we both take our final prizes at the same time. And it enters sudden death mode, which is really interesting. So you shuffle back all your cards. You start a brand new game. You call the coin flip again. And then the first prize card wins. And that's how this is determined. And this, I believe, repeats until a player wins. So it's interesting that they don't have like just you guys tied. You have a draw. It's like, no, one of you guys is going to win this game. And obviously our deck is incredibly fast. It takes the first prize very easily. So you already know what's going to happen. But we should have never gotten into this situation. We should have never misplayed during that match that I skipped through to not show you guys, but you get the idea. I got a bunch of matches here to show you guys, so you'll thank me later that I skipped some of it, Kappa. Imagine recording a video, skipping part of the footage that you have to record it, and being like, nah, you're happy that you would have skipped that anyway. Anyway, we got the Prime Catcher here, and that's gonna be all she wrote on the Duskull. So yeah, just attack for the thing. But that's really interesting. I wanted to show you guys the sudden death thing because that's something that doesn't come up in a lot of formats of Pokemon, because this Dusknoir guy, his whole like whatever ability that knocks out Pokemon and knocks out himself is not a very common thing. Like, there's self-destruct attacks all throughout the history of Pokemon trading card game, but they're usually not played. They're usually not that common. There are some in like really, really old formats. There's like a Weezing that has a self-destruct attack that's like played, I think, in like the first EX format, but generally speaking, you don't enter these sudden death modes very often, so pretty unique experience. All right, moving on. The next one I want to show you guys is actually a pretty bad matchup for the deck, and that matchup is going to be Arc Dialga. So I think that this matchup is quite bad, and the reason I think it's bad is because if they do get set up, you have a lot of trouble defeating back-to-back Archaludons. I think that's what it's called, Archaludon. I'm not really sure. But yeah, you have trouble defeating back-to-back ones because they resist grass. So Iron Leaves does -30. So it's really, really hard to get the appropriate amount of damage to knock those out. And the Dialga V-Star does 220, which is kind of like the exact number to knock out either Iron Crown or Iron Leaves. And it's It's really rough. Like, all their numbers kind of line up right, and all your numbers kind of line up wrong. That being said, their deck is way less consistent than yours. So I'm going to show you 2 matches up against Archaludon. The first one is going to be one where we get kind of body bagged. I'm not going to lie. So here, I've got the Arven. I got the Techno Radar. I got the EXP share. You already know. Pitch. Go search Double Crown. And then I'm sitting here and I'm like, I messed up. I was not supposed to grab EXP share. I was supposed to grab the Future Tool. Because if I grab the Future Tool, I grab Double Crown, I retreat the Miraidon, I attach the Future Tool, and then I knock out the active Dialga, and he's down a bunch of energy, and I'm up 2 prize cards. But I grabbed the EXP share. So I messed up. And this type of mistake will cost you a lot of games. If you mess up and you like accidentally count the damage wrong, that sort of thing, it's going to cost you a lot of games. Actually, no, wait. We knock out the Dialga anyway because he has damage on him already. Maybe I'm not messing up. I'm just in my own head right now. We actually just have it like that. I don't know what I'm talking about. We have it like that. Anyway, we knock out the Dialga because I dealt the... Of course, I dealt the damage with Miraidon. Of course. How could I forget that? Anyway, he Ultra Balls. He grabs the Archaludon. He plays the guy. He gets the energy. And... ooh, this guy is huge. He's got the Professor's Research. He's got all sorts of different things he can do here. He's going to go ahead and bench something. I don't know what he's thinking about. He's thinking for a while here. He goes for the Earthen Vessel, discards an energy, grabs 2 more energy. Alright, whatever. Attaches the energy. Does he have another guy? Maybe not. Who knows? He hits me for 220. So our deck can't deal 300. Just straight up can't deal 300. That's it. It just can't. I draw a Crown. I can play the Crown. The most damage we can deal is Iron Leaves plus 4 Crowns plus a Tool, and it's 280. So that's the most damage we can deal. I decide to attach an extra energy to the Crown. I decide to think... I should have attacked here with the... Did I attack with the hands? I should have attacked with the hands. I don't know if I do, but I should have. Do I burn the Tool here for the extra 20? That seems silly. Oh, I save it? That's not good. Huh. I decide to retreat and go for Miraidon to attach more energy. As it stands right now, it looks like we're in a really good position. I don't even know why this is... How do I lose this one? I remember losing this game. I think I lose it to like a Thornton double Archaludon. Yeah, here it is. I'm seeing it right now. He uses Thornton to float into Dialga V, and then... Yeah, this is an ugly one. He has the boss's orders. He takes 2 prize cards, so he's able to take the 2 prize cards here. We promote the Miraidon, right? Then we've got next Crown, so we can play the Crown. I can play the Leaves, but Leaves gets knocked out by Archaludon on the way back. So it's not a great exchange for us. But if he's just going for Archaludon, then we're okay. We're at least still in the game somewhat. Here I notice that obviously we're hitting for resisted damage, but it's still enough with the Triple Crown to knock out after the Miraidon softening. We find the Iron Bundle, and this is where things get tense, right? I mean, he just has the game. He has Thornton into Dialga, he has double Archaludon to power up to get the V-Star all at once, and yeah, this is what I would call like the nuts. This is the Archaludon nuts. And they do have it some of the time. Most of the time they won't get this full nut setup, and then you'll just be able to beat them. But they also play like that Tool Jammer. They play a lot of cards that make this matchup really, really difficult. So, yeah, it's not a good matchup. If you expect a lot of Archaludon, this might not be the deck for you. Because, boy, is it not good. The Iron Boulder somewhat helps, because it can't die to the... It's low resource, and it can't die to the Archaludon, and it softens up the Archaludon for, like, follow-up KOs from, like, Iron Hands and whatnot. But, like, look at this. This is just disgusting. Like, he had no Dialga in play. He had no energy in play. and all of a sudden he has 5 energy on his Dialga V-Star, and he's taking 4 prizes in the same turn. Like, out of nowhere. Like, all he had in play was a Greninja and two Duraludons, which is, man, that's messed up. He really had it all this game, but that's what the deck does. It's what it's designed to do. So, how do I say it? Rough matchup. But the next one I'm going to show you is against the same deck, and it shows you what happens most of the time, I'd say. Not like 50% of the time, but like a majority of the time, it'll be either you shut them out or it'll be a back and forth game. And then sometimes they have the nuts like they do in the last game that you just saw with the Thornton into the Dialga V into the as brutal. This game he starts out with 1 Duraludon, 1 Radiant Greninja. And the nice thing about Duraludon is they're really scary when there's multiple in play, but when there's only one, it's fine. And it's actually kind of difficult to find them. Like, you need to have multiple Nest Ball, you need to have multiple ways to search out multiple Duraludons, and you need to have like 3 because they're going to kill one of them. So they need to have 3 Duraludons to really be threatening you. And if you have the opportunity to like hunt down Duraludons with bosses, they're definitely the cards you want to hunt down because that's their energy. The Dialga can't wrap energy to itself without using its attack. So the Duraludon is definitely the high priority target in this matchup if you come into that circumstance anyway. We attack, we get our energy, we attach the boulder. Simple. You know the vibes. We're going boulder in the matchup. I think he's pretty good in the matchup. He helps a lot. In my games, at least, he was helping a lot versus the Duraludon deck. He has the Dialga V. He has the Ultra Ball. He can try to find another Duraludon. He needs to set up 3 of them, though. So here, he has the opportunity to set up 3, but he goes for a Pidgey. And I think that that's the problem. I think he should have set up another Duraludon there, but he's playing a lot of like these weird tech cards. Like, I think he's playing like Pidgeot for some reason. I don't really know. Obviously, Pidgeot's a very good card, but I don't really know if it's like, it's another layer of inconsistency in a deck that's already like kind of inconsistent, weirdly enough, because it's a multiple stage 1 deck, and it needs to have a Grave setup, and it needs to have multiple Duraludons to go for its big plays. We're able to float the energy here. I am able to promote the Iron Boulder. I draw into Techno Radar, and I think I mess up this turn. I think I have the ability to knock out his guy. Do I? Maybe I do. I don't fucking know. I don't know, actually. Crispin here, going to get us the second grass, which is really useful. Iron Leaves can be used. I think I do have the ability to knock out his guy. So yeah, I go for the Rapid Vernier. Keep the fighting on the boulder because I was only playing 1. Attach a lightning to the Boldy. Check, I'm dealing 190. So I need to deal 30 more, which is double crown. I discard my second Iron Leaves. Might have been a mistake, but we are able to find the knockout. So usually if you can find the initial 80 hit, you can get the KO with an Iron Leaves after. So there's something there at least. He goes for Iono. We both shuffle our hands back, but not too bad. My hand was kind of mid anyway. He evolves into the V-Star, and then he's forced to pass the turn back. He doesn't have the Archaludon to start ramping up to the Dialga V-Star here. And because the Duraludon's in the active spot, I'm like not scared by anything on his bench because the only thing that's going to accelerate is going to be the Duraludon. Otherwise, none of his cards threaten me. I search for the Future Tool. I have Boss's Orders here. I'm not sure if I even go for the bosses. I think I misplay and go for the bosses on the Duskull or something like that. I should just Repulsor Axe the active. Yeah, that's the correct play. So, Iron Boulder is really interesting because, like, in some circumstances, it's really good that he's fighting. But in some circumstances, he's really bad because he gets resisted by a lot of stuff, like Duskull and Pidgey. And, like, this is stuff that does come up, like being resisted by Pidgeotto or Pidgeot or Dusclops or whatever. Can make it hard to go for like a last prize with Iron Boulder sometimes. It's just something that comes up. He nest balls out the Pheasantipity. He's got the Pokestop, and he's kind of going ham with it all. But again, like if you don't have the Duraludons, this deck doesn't do anything. So he's gonna concede. But that's usually how the matchup goes. I just wanted to showcase the dichotomy of that matchup where it's like either you get absolutely owned by a crazy Thornton turn, or you just kill all the Duraludons and your opponent has no place for the rest of the game. So that's kind of the vibe. This is a game up against Hydreigon. This is an interesting matchup. It's pretty free because Leaves hits Hydreigon for weakness. That being said, they can have a crazy hand where they like turn 2 Hydreigon you. And that's really scary. That's really, really scary. But, you know, usually it's not going to happen. And the Leaves is just going to cook them. I should have attached a grass here with Iron Hands. Or not with Iron Hands. With the Miraidon to the Iron Hands. That was a mistake. Crispin can get us the Lightning and the grass anyway. So, yeah, pretty big error. I needed to have 2 grass here in case I needed to answer whatever it was, Charizard or whatever it is I'm playing against. At this point, I don't know what he's playing. He's got the rare candy for the Pidgeot. He's going to go ahead and use the quick search. He's going to find something. Buddy Poffin. There it is. He's going to Buddy Poffin, bring out the boys. Double Dino. I'm not sure how you're supposed to say that guy. He retreats into Cleffa. He attaches his energy, and then he goes for the Cleffa attack. Oh, and a counter gain as well. That card's pretty cool. I think that's a cool card. Crispin is the draw. Crispin, stay crispy. This guy's just actually so fucking awesome. It's one of the nicest cards. Fighting gets attached to the Boldy. We attach the grass to the Boldy. We might even be able to go for the Boldy attack here. I think I just go for the acceleration. Yeah, it's a little bit smarter to get the energy into play and charge up the hands. I should have double charged the hands. That was a huge misclick or misplay on my part. Yeah, I should have double charged the hands. That was really stupid. I figured I'd be fine because I have Crispin, so it's like not that big of a deal. I can Crispin. But if I get Ionode and then I need to amp you very much, it's kind of silly. He goes for the counter catcher, brings up the Iron Hands. He's now got the Hydreigon, and he's got the ability to... I think he's got a Neo Upper Energy attached. So he can do the first attack. He can't do the second attack quite yet. He's going to go for Ultra Ball, grab his Veilus, evolve his guy. Zweilous? I'm not sure how to say that card either. Pidgeot EX, Quick Search. So Quick Search is really busted, and it basically means you're either going to get bossed or Ionode every single turn for the rest of the game. So you got to be careful of that. When your opponent has a Pidgeot in play, just prep to be bossed or Ionode every single turn for the rest of the game. That being said, we top deck Iron Leaves, and I'm just like, oh, well, this instantly wins the game, so don't even really need to think about it because the Hydreigon is weak to grass. So I don't know what I'm thinking about here, actually. I don't know why I'm like dirtling so much. Just need to put the Hydreigon into play, put the Iron Leaves into play. Yeah, I decided to grab a second Iron Leaves for the checkmate. So yeah, just bench the Iron Leaves, put it in the active, energy, and energy. I moved all the energy off of the Iron Hands because he could randomly die, and that would be unfortunate for us. I was thinking about playing the second Leaves now, but I didn't have enough grass energy to make it worth it. So if I had 4 grass energy in play, it's sometimes better to play the Iron Leaves the same turn because then you have 2 attackers already set up. But I only had 3 grass energy in place. So there's really no reason to play the Iron Leaves then and there. He's going to go ahead and Iono us. So, yeah, a little bit punished for not playing the second Leaves. But like I said, we didn't have the grass energy. And Iono put us into the Professor's Research, the one of. So you always got to play the one of Professors, whether it's Sycamore or Juniper. Those are the 2 goats. Sycamore or Juniper. None of the other Professors are worth even thinking about. It's always Sycamore or Juniper. Those are the only ones. He goes for the Duskull. He gives us a prize. Gives us a crown here. He searches a card from his deck. He's got the Hydreigon, but that Pokemon just doesn't KO. Oh, I guess it does KO us. I noticed here, like, his psychic energy was bugged. It had the foiling of a different card, like, overlaid on it. Pokemon TCG Live is so silly. So this is an instance where, like, if we don't find the Iron Leaves to reversal, we do lose. I attach the energy to the Iron Crown. I go for the Professor's Research, and we find the Iron Leaves. So we do have a lot of ways to get to it. We have Techno Radar, and we have Iron Leaves itself. But he decides to concede, and that's going to be that. So That's kind of how that matchup goes down. It's just like, can you chain Leaves through the Ionos? And if not, then you can sometimes lose in those late game situations. But because the deck is so consistent, you should be able to find Leaves, or you can just put double Leaves into play if you have enough energy. This is going to be the last stretch of me making it to the Master Ball rank, or not Master Ball rank, the Arceus rank. And this is going to be up against Charizard, I believe. This opening hand is just, it's great, and we're going second. Really can't complain. He's got double Nest, I believe, or he might have Ultra Ball. Yeah, double Ball Search to get the Charmander into play. I see him pitch the Radzard there. A little bit of an error. I think he should have kept the Radzard. That card's really good against Future. That's actually one of the scariest cards. That's the card that single-handedly makes the Hydreigon matchup bad. I actually think the Hydreigon matchup is good if they like prize the Radzard, which is funny. But that card is very annoying to deal with. It's a one prizer and it KOs Iron Hands. It KOs your whole deck, so it's really annoying. Even Iron Boulder gets KO'd by Radzard. That card is super, super strong. So yeah, we go for the Peak Acceleration, grab double Grass, keep it simple, and attach the Grass to the active. So if the active is knocked out, we float the 2 energy. There's no way this can go wrong. We don't lose any energy no matter what. We have the Iron Leaves to reversal KO the Charizard, even if he's able to set it up. There's no way these energy are going anywhere unless he specifically lost vacuums one of the EXP shares. So we're big chillin'. He pitches a rare candy, which is nice. That's another crucial resource he can't get back to like chain these Charizards together. He goes ahead and pumps out a Charizard, keeps it simple. But the nice thing about this is just, man, Iron Leaves just smokes Charizard because he's weak to grass for some reason. I don't know why they printed a Charizard card that's weak to grass. It doesn't make any sense, but it's just how it goes, I guess. Anyway, promote the crown. I do want to try and find a crispy boy here because I need more energy in play. I need at least one more energy in play. I'm not sure if I go for the Arven or the crispy, though. I think I might go for the Arven this turn. I go for the gear, trying to find the Arven. Or, not Arven. Trying to find the crispy. That makes sense. Yeah. Dude, that crispy boy, that card is so crazy. They should have never printed that card. It's like one of my favorite cards in the history of ever. I don't play an Arven there because I just want to leave more outs if I get Iono'd. I'm thinking the way I lose this game is he like somehow super odds back the Radzard. He Crispins to it or something crazy like that. Knocks out the Leaves. But I wanted to leave multiple Arvens in the deck. I don't know. I was thinking you could also like countercatcher Iron Crown. I'm not really sure. This is actually like a really interesting circumstance to be in. One thing that I should mention that I haven't mentioned yet is that if you get an Iron Crown stuck in the active like this with an EXP share, and you do have the Crispy Boy, that's 2 energies to retreat the crown. So even in the worst case scenario, you can always retreat the crown with the Crispy Boy, which is really nice. It's kind of like having a pseudo double turbo energy or whatever. He does end up hitting us with the Iono though. So like I said, the second Pidgeot's in play, just be prepared to get bossed and Iono'd every single turn for the rest of the game. Either one or both of those effects are going to happen to you every single turn for the rest of the game. So that's just kind of like a mental preparation thing, and you can kind of plan your setup and your layout based off of the fact that that's going to happen to you. There's not much else that can happen to you besides like some hand ripping effects that some decks play, like Eerie, but Eerie really doesn't do anything against us because we play so few trainers. So few items. We play a lot of trainers, but so few items. We end up going for the Iron Bundle here. I'm trying to like bait him into like a mistake where he puts the Rotom or the Pheasantipity into the active. But he doesn't bite. He puts the Duskull into the active. And yeah, so that's that. We miss on the anything, so we're forced to just kind of pass. And yeah, now this is where the opponent has the highest chance of a comeback. He can piece together a Charizard and bosses the Iron Leaves, but he's spent a lot of resources. I think he's already spent his Super Rod. I think he's already spent some of his energy. And now he's using Arven here, so he can no longer bosses us. He can countercatcher us, but I'm checking his grave. 2 countercatchers are gone. They usually don't play 3. They usually play 2 countercatchers because they just don't have the deck space for it. So, yeah, usually 2 countercatchers. Sometimes they play 3, but if they do, I'm just hoping it's prized. So he can't Arven, or he used Arven, so he can't bosses us here. He can't bosses us. And it's very likely that he only plays 2 counter catcher. So he's going to go ahead and use Charizard's ability, attach the energy, gets to attach 3. So 1 gets to go to the Charizard. He's actually going to make what I think is a mistake and put energy on both Fez and the Duskull. So now he's out a lot of energy. He's already out a couple of Super Rods. And these are crucial energy that he's going to need to be able to attack with the Radzard later in the game. And I keep checking his discard pile because I'm like, okay, so if these are the resources he has, he plays the Luminion, he searches the bosses, and now he's in a really awkward spot here. He's got the Lost Vacuum, and what I think he should do is hit the EXP share on the bench, but he decides to hit the Town Store, which makes sense. He doesn't know how much EXP share I'm playing. Like, fine, I could maybe just search another EXP share. Who knows? But he should have hit the EXP share on the bench if he had known my list, is what I'm saying. But he makes the correct play of just using the Rotom, Instant Charge, whatever, draw 3 cards here, and passing the turn back while I still have the Iron Crown locked in the active. I draw for turn. It's going to be Techno Radar, so it's another card that normally would be dead here, but Iron Leaves is broken as fuck. So we're able to just Techno Radar, pitch the Miraidon. It takes me a second to remember that Iron Leaves is the reason I play this deck. Just grab 2 Iron Leaves. I'm able to play the Iron Leaves down, ramp 3 energy from the bench Iron Leaves, get the EXP share guy out of the active. This is why it's like totally safe to put EXP shares on your guys. They don't get stuck because Iron Leaves just lets you move it out of the active, no questions asked. It's like Shaman from Undaunted on steroids. I don't know if that's the set it's from, but you know the Shaman I'm talking about. The Heart Gold Soul Silver Shaman, it's that on steroids. Because it's also a switch. It's like a switch and a Shaman, and it's like, man, that's just such a powerful effect. Plus, it's a great attacker. Knocks out Charizard, knocks out Hydreigon, knocks out a lot of the big threats in the format. He's able to just Dusclops here because he can't take us out. He's going to go out on his own terms, but very lucky Techno Radar top deck from us. We had a bunch of good top decks that got us out of that situation, KO'd the Charizard, but it was a pretty intense game. And this was one of the games that was on the last home stretch to getting to Arceus. I think at this point I had gotten to, this was the one. I was in Mew rank, and I was laddering up to the final few games. Now, one thing that's interesting about the ladder is, like, you will play against just, like, the craziest brews sometimes, and I think that that's really hype. I think tournament gameplay really differs from ladder gameplay now that tournament gameplay is best of 3. I really dislike best of 3 gameplay. I mean this, like, from the bottom of my heart. I think best of 3 gameplay has made, like, IRL Pokemon, like, not as exciting for me. I feel like, like, Future is one of those decks, too. Like, this deck is one of those decks where, like, game 1, you can just smoke someone because they let you go second, right? Like, that can just happen. But then game 2 and game 3, they're not going to let you go second. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to have to go first at least once, which sucks. I mean, it's fair, but it sucks. You know what I mean? And also these types of strategies, like what we're facing right now, Tatsugiri EX, you would never see this at a tournament, even though it's really, really cool, because people are, like, less incentivized to get creative when they know they have to win 3 matches every single round against whatever deck it is. They're going to be more safe with their deck choices, and it really decreases the experimentation. I think best of 1 is way more hype for Pokemon, personally. I think best of 3 is also really boring because of how many draws happen at in-person tournaments. When I played at a regional last, 2 of my matches went into time and it was draws. You'll notice here I am trying the energy search over the counter catcher in this match. And the way Tatsugiri works is he lets you look at the top 10 of your deck and put any number of Pokemon into play. Doesn't matter if they're evolution or whatever, which is really exciting. I think that's really cool. He finds an Iono, but he decides correctly not to go for it because he recognizes that our hand might not be the best and he doesn't want to help us out. So he goes for the Cypher Maniac's Code-Breaking, trying to set up his deck. That's another card that works well with the Tatsugiri attack. We attach the energy. We go for the Peak Acceleration. And now we have a bunch of energy in play if we are to top deck an Iron Leaves. But our hand's a little dead. We do get 2 prize cards here, but those aren't really helping out either. So we need some pretty good help off the top of our deck here, or else we're going to get cooked with whatever crazy combo he's going to go for with this Tatsugiri. So he's going to go for that. And he's going to look at the top 10 cards of his deck. And he's able to put a Pidgeot, a Slacking EX, a Dusknoir, and a Togekiss all into play all at once. What a sick effect. And this is like almost going into Arceus tier, right? Like, this guy has been grinding with this deck for a while, and it looks like he's been having results. Obviously, he's like higher up on the ladder. I'm not exactly sure how the laddering system works on Pokemon, but I go for the Energy Search, trying to thin my deck so that the Pokegear hits, and it does. It hits a Arven, so very lucky Pokegear top deck for us. We are able to Arven, and we can now go for the Techno Radar and try to go for back-to-back Leaves. I'm not sure if that's the best choice. We already have the double EXP share in play. Pitch Miraidon because we probably don't need it. Yeah, I go for double Leaves. Like I said, I'm not sure this is the best play. I think I set up double Leaves at this moment. Is this another one of those moments? Yeah, this is, because I'm scared of getting Iono'd. So this is a play that I wanted to show you guys. If you're worried about getting Iono'd, just go for the second Leaves right away, especially if you have enough energy in play like we have had this game. I attach the Future Tool to the bench. We take 2 prizes, but if you're looking at the board, it's going to be kind of hard for us to get those last two prizes. Slacking, we can't KO him. Pidgeot, 280, we can do 280, but we need 2 more crowns. And I have no way to get access to those crowns in my hand. I've got Boss's Orders, but if I draw like an Arven, I can't play both the Arven and the Boss's Orders. So we're kind of in a tough spot here. And his setup is pretty disgusting. He uses Crispin, which obviously works with the Tatsugiri, works well with the Slacking EX as well. And he's able to power up 2 energies in 1 turn with the Slacking. The Togekiss might even be able to allow him to take 3 prizes off of this knockout, which is crazy. He decides to go for Dusknoir and seals the deal for us. Had he just not gone for the Dusknoir here, I think we actually would have lost this game, which is crazy. That's really crazy. He finds the Power Glass. The Power Glass is a tool that will attach a basic energy to the active if it's in the active spot at the end of the turn, so it makes the Slacking's attack basically free, 280 for free, on a 340 hit point monster that we can't do anything about. We get to float some energy, but had he not gone for that Dusknoir, he does flip tails on the Togekiss, but had he not gone for that Dusknoir, I think we would have been in a tough spot here. I'm going to be honest. Because the draw is a Nest Ball. That gets us to 1 Iron Crown, but it doesn't get us to 2 Iron Crowns. So we would not have been able to deal 280 to the Pidgeot. We would have been forced to attack the Slacking in the active. And I don't know. Maybe he could have pieced something together. Maybe Pidgeot can search for a heal card and really mess us up. So this could have been a really crazy game had he not gone for that Dusknoir. I'm not exactly certain how it would have panned out, but alas, he flipped tails on the Togekiss, and we were able to take it and move on to, I believe, after this game, we moved up to, PTCG Live does this bug thing. Only a few wins away, and this is going to be the finale. I think I won one where I was like a donk, and then I'm going to show you guys the finale. So here I was, 1 win away from the Arceus tier in 3 days, which is honestly more Pokemon than I probably should have played in 3 days, but it's been a blast. The deck is fast. The deck is awesome. It's just a good time. I've been super addicted to this game lately. I think the meta's in a great spot. I think there's a lot of experimentation to be done. Every deck I face is cool. Everything is exciting and hype. There's comeback plays in every deck. There's crazy positional plays in every deck. It's just a blast. And here we are facing off against a really annoying stall Froslass deck. And he starts off with the nuts. He has the accompanying flute and the trolley. The trolley is one of the cards that I really dislike. There used to be some drawback to playing too much ball search, that sort of thing, but I think trolley is just overpowered. That being said, there's a lot of other overpowered stuff, but I think trolley is just a little uninteresting. It's okay, here's my whole bench. Yeah, that's cool. I used to have to work for that. Back in my day, uphill both ways in the snow just to get dual ball heads. You know what I'm talking about? But alas, he gets the full bench set up, and I'm just sitting here like, all right, this is going to be a tough one. I got to research my hand. Maybe I shouldn't have researched my hand because I had the Iron Leaves EX, the third Iron Leaves EX, which is going to come up later in this game. I fire off all my items because I see he has double Voodoo. I don't want to put Iron Crown EX into play, so I decided to go for the Iron Bundle here, I believe. Yep, go for the Iron Bundle. I launch with the Iron Bundle to try and give him, try and get a Voodoo, but he doesn't give me one of those. He gives me the Monkey. And I haven't put any crowns into play, so my guys aren't going to do much, but I'm going to start powering up these hands. I think I should have just put one lightning on each hands. It's maybe a mistake on my part, but this game ends up going on for a while. I think I make a couple of play errors. One or two that are really questionable. He's got Arven. He's got the Earthen Vessel. Earthen Vessel. Pitch get the energy. Rescue board. Retreats the board. Retreats into Voodoo. Attaches the darkness. And so he's fully set up here. He can start moving the damage with the Monkey onto our Pokemon. And then he can start hitting us with the Itchy Pollen. And then on our turn, we're going to draw into the EXP Share. So EXP Share is completely useless in this matchup. Arven, after you've been hit with Voodoo, is completely useless, but Voodoo is just food for Miraidon, which is nice. We're just going to take easy prizes. We're going to power up our Iron Hands. And this match is looking pretty straightforward, provided we find a Crispin. I attach to the Iron Hands on the bench. I go for the Peak Acceleration, and then here's where I think I mess up. I attach the fourth energy to the one on the left. I should have attached two to the one on the right, so that I could attack with either one of them if they got bossed up, basically. I grab the Grass Energy. He's got Voodoo. But here, still, I'm thinking I'm fine. Because even if he does boss me up and use the Mawile to lock me, I've got Arven for the Prime Catcher to move myself out of the active and then just KO his shit. So I'm still thinking I'm, like, kind of fine here. Honestly, big chillin'. He gets the second Froslass in play, attaches the Dark Energy. He's got the Counter Catcher, and now he's got the Mawile to lock me. And I'm like, okay, well, like I said, I can just go for the Prime Catcher, get out of the active, amp you very much, take two prizes, and this game's gonna fall apart for the opponent, right? And then I'm gonna be Arceus tier, I'm gonna be crushing, I'm gonna be just dominating. I go for the Arven, I check my cards, and I'm like, oh fuck, Prime Catcher is prized. Of course it's prized. Of course, in the last game, I need to win to get to Arceus in 3 days. Of course, the Arven going for the Prime Catcher that I need to do anything is going to be prized. I shotgun off my items just because, like, okay. And here I'm just, like, kind of annoyed. So I decide to go for Iron Leaves, and I make a mistake on top of all this. So what I should have done was Iron Leaves, go to the active, and only move one energy. And then retreat the Iron Leaves into the Iron Hands and take 2 prize cards with the Amp You very much. Instead, I moved 3 energy to Iron Leaves like a dumbass. And now I've got this Iron Hand sitting on the bench with no energy. If he's able to piece together back the Mawile again, I'm going to get locked. And I don't draw the Prime Catcher off my prizes. So I make a crucial misplay. I'm obviously tilted because the Prime Catcher is prized. I'm not paying attention to the game state at all. I'm frustrated. I just want to attack. I want to get my Arceus rank so I can make this video and then stop thinking about it. You know what I mean? But no, he's able to piece together with his 5-card hand. He's able to piece together another Wild plus Counter Catcher play. How frustrating is this? This is so frustrating. So frustrating. And now I've got 3 of my Lightning Energy in play. I can't even attack with the Arm Press anymore. So I need 4 energy on my Iron Hands to do anything with it. I discarded my Iron Leaves early on because I used the professor's research. You can see I checked the grave here. Oh my gosh. I'm so tilted. Thankfully for us, we actually hit the Lightning Energy. So I'm going to start spamming Boss's orders, trying to trap some of his Pokemon in the active, make him waste energy cards that way. We're not really at risk of losing here. I'm just getting the crowns out of the deck so that he can't like flute them into play and then get 6 prizes with the Froslass. That's where things start to get really complicated. He also switches up his tune quite a bit here. He moves damage to the Iron Hands, but he also moves damage to the Miraidon at some point and moves damage to the Iron Leaves at some point. Had he just stayed the course and moved damage to the Iron Hands every single time, I think he would have been fine. Anyway, we get Crispin here, which would be fine, but all 4 of our lightning energy are in play. So we don't even get to attach with Crispin. We just get to search the grass. But that being said, searching grass is still fine. Builds up towards our Ampy very much. Beggars can't be choosers. Crispy boy still got us. He's still got us, bro. He's still got us. Opponent's built up to 6 cards now. How frustrating, but again, we're not really at risk of losing here. We're kind of chilling. We do find another energy here, so we're building up a lot. And we got double bosses, so we can start trying to trap his guys in the active and then hopefully retreating in the near future. He puts another monkey into play. Doesn't attach to energy of the monkey, so it leads me to believe he doesn't have an energy. I don't know if he's just baiting me, but it leads me to believe he doesn't have an energy because he didn't put it on the monkey. So I'm going to go ahead and fire off the bosses here. Try to trap something with 1 retreat in the active so that he can't tempting trap me in the active. And he's going to have to, at the very least, pick between attaching to the Froslass and attaching to the monkey. He's got Arven, which will get him the Earthen Vessel. He's got the Earthen Vessel, Pitch, and that's going to go ahead and get him 1 Dark Energy. He can now attach that to the Froslass, and he can use Night Stretchers to get back the energy, but it looks like he's out of energy, and it looks like he's almost out of Night Stretchers. So I'm hoping that the next bosses gives us the opportunity to retreat. He decides to use the Adrena Brain to knock out the Iron Leaves here, getting a little bit worried, probably getting a little bit antsy on his side, and I don't know if that's the right play. I go ahead and go for the bosses again. Maybe the prize he drew was another energy. I decide to save the Iono. I know he's going to go down to 2 prize cards. I know I'm going to be able to Iono him down to 2 cards in hand, and then from there I can maybe take over the game with Iron Hands. He does have another Darkness Energy, which he drew off the prizes, but he chooses to attach it to the monkey. Now the question is, does he have the rescue board to be able to retreat his guy? He plays the Artisan. Does he have the rescue board? He's got Irida. That doesn't get you rescue board. It does get you Night Stretcher. He can Night Stretcher, grab back the energy, but he's already attached the monkey. And now I get the opportunity to finally retrieve my Iron Hands that was stuck in my hand forever. And I know the Dark Energy's in his hand. So I can Techno Radar, grab 2 Iron Crowns because I want to Iono them to the bottom of the deck so he can't flute them. That's kind of my goal here. Then I Iono the 2 Crowns to the bottom of the deck. Draw my new cards. And I even find the last energy so I can even attack with the active here. I don't even need to worry about it. I attack, take 2 prize cards. He's got 2 cards in hand. Can he lock my Miraidon here? That's the real question. Possibly. But even if he can, we've drawn Prime Catcher off the prizes at this point. So he needs to not only counter Catcher my Miraidon, lock it in the active with Mawile. He also needs to Iono away my Prime Catcher. He needs to do all 3 of those things. And I just don't think it's happening because here he is playing Arven. And that's not going to get him to the game state he needs in order to lock us up. We're going to be able to amp you very much, take the last 2 prize cards, and win this game. This is normally a very easy matchup, but I played bad, A, and B, we had unlucky prize cards. So combination of those 2. And as you can see here, we are going to be able to hit that Arceus rank. And your boy's out here. Actually the GOAT. Actually Pokemon GOATed. Super, super exciting gameplay. Super fun deck. Can't recommend it enough. Let me know what decks you guys are playing in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe if you liked this epic video of epic proportions with the future Crispy. Alright, I'll see you guys in the next vid, which should be coming sooner rather than later. Yeah, you guys know the vibes. Peace.